Cruise ships have become international pariahs, unwelcome at ports around the globe. On the Zaandam near Panama, coronavirus has killed 4 people. While at least 2 others have tested positive, nearly 190 have flu-like symptoms. The remaining passengers are in lockdown.
This is the room we have been in for 8 days now.
61-year-old Shirley McLaren and her partner Stephen Shepherd joined the cruise in Buenos Aires earlier this month.
We were on a cruise of a lifetime around South America. We were supposed to be doing the glaciers and the fjords through the Patagonia. At the time when we left, we had no idea what coronavirus could be like.
Shirley has sleep apnea and needs this machine to help her breathe at night. Coronavirus attacks the lungs.
It just ensures you get controlled pressure during the night to stop your esophagus from falling down and blocking your airways. If we didn't go on the cruise, we were not going to be refunded. So we went. I wish we hadn't.
Hopes were raised when hundreds of healthy passengers were transferred from the Zaandam to a nearby sister ship, the Rotterdam. Shirley and Stephen passed the health checks to transfer, but were left behind.
We sat for hours and hours and hours waiting to be transferred, and we weren't told anything.
How are you doing, darling?
I'm okay. How are you holding up today?
Today's been a much better day than yesterday.
Shirley's daughter, Rachel McNamara, can only watch and wait from afar.
You're handling it a lot better.
I'm really upset that she hasn't been able to move to the MS Rotterdam, which I hope would lessen the chances of her catching the virus.
Those on the Zaandam are now at the whim of foreign governments that are struggling to contain outbreaks in their own countries. 70-year-old Lucille Brown and 69-year-old Robert Brown are also stuck on board.
Over 90% of people on board are just regular mums and dads, nanas and pops that would give their right arm for their children and their grandchildren.
We're happy to go into whatever quarantine or self-isolation is required. We just need the compassion of some of the ports to allow us to dock and get people off. It's a humanitarian issue on this ship now.
Their next port of call is Florida in the US, now the country with the most cases in the world. In Australia, there's a 30-day ban on cruise ships, but exceptions have been made for several arrivals. But on the other side of the country, in Western Australia, they're turning back the ships, with 2 international liners told to stay away. The Royal Australian Navy nearby, in a maritime standoff between the government and several ships. Victorian Erica Randall and her 75-year-old mum were on the Vasco de Gama.
My mum's friends had booked the trip and they asked my mum to go along, and it was her 75th birthday. So this sounded like a great trip for us to do for her 75th birthday. My mum's never travelled before at all. So there's mum out there, she's sending notes home.
But ports began to close, and the ship was diverted from Thailand to Fremantle.
When we left Australia, we checked all of the Smart Traveller websites, all of the warnings, we spoke to the cruise company, we spoke to our travel agent. All of that information indicated that we should still go on the cruise.
Authorities scrambled a plan to have Australian passengers quarantined on Rottnest Island and hotels on the mainland.
I guess I have fears that we're going into some type of prison lockdown, and that obviously is a really scary thought.
Days went by. They watched New Zealand passengers disembark, farewelled with music. Then Germans from a nearby ship.
Yeah, so they seem to be walking down, then they take their masks off, they take a photo of them, and then they get on the bus.
Finally, after days of conflicting messages and false starts, the Australians were allowed to get off.
How are people feeling on board? Maybe ask Mum. How are people feeling on board?
Actually very stressed. People are, some of the older people are getting really frail and fragile.
This idea that people have out there is actually really frightening as well for us on board. We sort of feel like we're the unclean, or that we're treated, it's like we're being punished for going on the cruise.
After her initial nerves about being quarantined in a 5-star Perth hotel, Erica is thankful to be on dry land and to have her health.
Quite emotional coming off the ship. Probably wasn't as prepared for how emotional it was getting back onto Australian soil. First day of quarantine, happy, healthy, looking forward to the next 14 days.
Maria, what are you doing?
I'm just looking at this magnificent mountain.
Julie Turnbull and Maria Minera are on board the Costa Victoria off the coast of Italy.
I'm not even going to be able to set foot on. Beautiful. And I was thinking, that was supposed to be me up north going to Austria.
The retired teachers are among 1,500 passengers and crew, including more than 200 Australians.
Days, 28 wonderful days, calling in at 2 ports in the south of India and then on to the Maldives where we plan to go ashore.
But as the voyage went on, the ports began to close.
Once we boarded in Mumbai, only a day or two later it became clear that there was going to be problems because they cancelled the first stop in the Maldives. That happened because the Maldivian government just wouldn't let the ship in. So we started to worry a lot about what was going to happen after that.
And unfortunately, there's no breakfast for us as yet.
Passengers are now largely isolated to their cabins after the first case of coronavirus was revealed this week.
We were told last night just before dinner that a passenger was taken off in Crete, and we've now been told that they are positive, and so we're all confined to cabins.
Why? Tell me why. Regular practice. Happy birthday.
Julie and Maria are doing their best to protect themselves.
A lot of the Australian passengers, we've got nearly 400 on board, started to get really agitated about where we were actually going to go.
The ship is now trying to disembark passengers in Italy, where nearly 7,000 people have died. Passengers are stuck between a potentially virus-laden ship and the world's most deadly coronavirus outbreak.
Hi Julie, how are you?
I'm well. How are you this morning?
Well, I'm enjoying the view and great to be going through the Suez Canal. Just wondering when we'll get to a port where we can get home. I don't want to go through Venice or Italy, but not sure I've got a choice. Anyway, hopefully we'll get home safely.
On the other side of the world, off the coast of South America, the Azamara Pursuit is steaming towards the US city of Miami. 75-year-old Helen Pavlovich and her 78-year-old husband Eddie celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary on board.
This is our cabin with a king-size bed coming to a window.
Our shower and toilet area. When we first came to this cabin, we thought it was large cabin, large bathroom. Now, after nearly 3 weeks, we feel like it's all very small and it's closing in on us.
The ship tried to dock in Chile, but was rejected.
We spent 3 days going up and down the Chilean coast there. The thing is, we're a corona-free ship. We do not have the coronavirus on board. We are clean. And the Chilean authorities were told this, but to no avail. On the 10th day of not being able to land, as you can see, everybody is exercising, trying to keep fit. Life on board the ship is pretty much the same as what it always has been. We all appear smiling and happy, but underneath, many of us, especially Australians, are really worried.
You know, mum and dad are elderly, they've had some conditions, you know, they are seriously at risk. And, you know, it's, you try not to let your mind go there, but, you know, when you do, you start thinking of all the negative outcomes here, and they're not pleasant.
Even cruise ships with no confirmed cases are considered a potential threat because they're an ideal environment for coronavirus to spread. The latest findings into the Diamond Princess, quarantined in Japan last month, show the virus survived on cabin services 17 days after passengers were evacuated. While it's not clear if transmission occurred through services, it shows the virus is stubborn. Of the 712 positive cases, nearly half showed no symptoms at the time they were tested.
So the longer we leave them there, the higher the risk of contracting the virus.
It's also an anxious time for the passengers' families. 17-year-old student Shristi Lal's elderly grandparents are stuck on the coast of Victoria. It's a different world to when they departed for the cruise from Brisbane last month.
At that time, it was mainly contained in China, the COVID-19. So it was almost we'll be okay. Europe is going to be fine. They are very worried for their well-being. They don't know whether they've contracted the disease. No one really knows.
We're passing under.
The Australian government is now monitoring plans to have the passengers on the coast of Victoria disembark near Rome.
All the Australians that I've spoken to and a lot of other nationalities have all also expressed their concerns about landing in Italy because of the high rate of infections and deaths in Italy. So this is a great concern for all of us.